So one of the things we learn in Kabbalah is that the way you were raised and the way people treated you did not create the fears and wounds you have, but rather your soul came to this lifetime with spiritual baggage. We call this baggage tikkun, that literally means the correction of the soul. In the last 20 years of stories I've heard, the ones that had the most traumatic and painful stories of sudden death, of trauma, of loss, of bankruptcy, and then they made a decision to create light out of that darkness, ended up being the most successful people that I know today. And here's what's interesting. How they got there, they say that it was not even logical. There was almost another force that took them there, because all they had to do was make the decision that I want to be light. That's all we need to do. People always say, well, how do I get there? You don't need to know how to get there. You just need to make that decision. It's the decision you made. And then the rest took shape. Like all of this, like miracle after miracle, there's a force that pushes you to get there. But I always tell people, like, the darker the period you've been through is the greater the vessel you have. And it means you're a high soul. The future is happening right now. Obviously, the greatest speakers are talking about that. And this is why investing our consciousness in the now both cleanses the past, and any negativity you've done in the past, you can cleanse all of it just by deciding to be a different person today. And you also forge this incredible future because you're creating it at this very moment with your consciousness. All right, so we talked about examine your limited belief system. So you can literally write down, what do you believe about love? What do you believe about prosperity? What do you believe? And just write stuff down. As you write stuff down, you will see where the limitations are. And you can actually show that to someone who has achieved something you haven't and ask them, what do you believe about this? So spending time with people who don't have those limited beliefs. I went on a walk with someone who's a great father. He has 4 kids. He's a phenomenal dad. He's a great businessman too. I didn't ask him one business question. I said, tell me what you do that makes you a great father. Give me your top 4 tips about being a great dad. And he told me things that like changed my life. One thing he told me, I till today, I think about it every day when I'm with my kids. He says, instead of trying to get the kids to do what you love to do, get on the floor, sit with them, and become passionate about what they love to do. You will build this bond and this trust with them that will make them love you and then come to do whatever you want to do later on in life. But we're always trying to make our kids become more like us and what's comfortable for us and what we believe is right. Sit with them and build the trust. That was something I just got on the walk. So we talked about the limited beliefs. And the other thing is certainty. Everything is good. Everything is good. Even if it's bad, even if it's bad, it's good. When you choose to say something is good, it comes from your choice. You transform darkness to light. When you are passively just driving and a negative thought comes to you from the outside and you think about it and you entertain it, that's when you manifest a negative reality. Good. But if everything comes from a good source, means the sea level of it's good. Everything is good, meaning you will be tested to be reactive. Yes. Reactive means reactive behavior is any thought, word, or action which comes from lack or fear in order to connect to instant gratification. So anything you do from lack or fear is drawing energy temporarily, which you will then lose because it was reactive. So right before your next level, you will be tempted with something that makes you scared or something that brings up your lack. Like right before you meet your soulmate, you'll be tempted by someone who you know is not good for you, but is feeding your neediness and lack in some way. Or you have to say no. You have to say no. Because what you're doing when you're saying yes to this temporary energy is you're clogging the vessel. And you're telling the universe that you're trying to expand your vessel for soulmate energy. So you'll be tested by something that by saying no to, that resistance expands who you are. And then that's when the soulmate comes in. So we see this in everything, in all competitions. Everything will first be, you'll be tested to be reactive. And if you push through, then you get the prize. Then, the third thing that we're talking about is the adding value part. Everything that you do must be of the consciousness of I am giving and not taking. What's the number one reason why there's a fear of public speaking? I learned this 20 years ago. My mentors told me, if you're scared when you get on a stage, it's because you're trying to take from them and not give to them. Said if you went on the stage and said, your only job was to tell everybody here gets $10,000. Remember when Oprah went on stage and said, everybody here gets a go? Yeah. If you go up on stage and say, I am here just to tell you all that I am personally writing you a check, each of you for $10,000. You could get in front of 1 billion people and have no fear telling them that you want to give them $10,000. But if I said, hey, go in front of 1 billion people and talk about, a topic that you like, you're going to be scared. Why? Because you're looking to take something from the audience. You want their approval. You want them to like you. You want to look good. In life, all fear comes from when we're trying to take. When we're actually giving, there's no fear because we're God. We become like God, and there's no fear in God. There's no fear in the Creator. And that is why every time I'm scared or I'm nervous, I remind myself, I'm looking for something here. I'm looking to take something. And I have to then change my consciousness that I'm coming to be a giver. Now, sometimes we don't feel like we're a giver because we didn't really invest in our product. If you don't have a good product and you know you're kind of tricking the audience, you will always feel inauthentic and you'll feel scared. You'll feel anxious. And part of, like we were talking about it before the show, the more you work on your craft, the more you become good at it. One time Anthony Hopkins came to one of my classes, and this is public. He came and he shared the story. I sat with him privately and I asked him, he actually showed me a room in his house. And he said, I want to show you this room. I said, what's in this room? So Anthony Hopkins took me to the room and he's like, I want to tell you about this room. Every time I get a script, I sit in this room and I read the script 300 times until it becomes seared in my mind and my soul, and it becomes every part of me. And then when I'm filming, I can be a channel. I can be my essence. So what's interesting is he put in the work before so that he could then go and be a giver. If you're overthinking when you're on the stage or you're trying to think about what should I say, what should I not say, it's all about you. You're trying too hard. You're blocking yourself from the infinite. We should never be talking to people from our brain, from our knowledge, from our experience. The only reason he read the script 300 times is so that he could just be done with it and not think about the script anymore and be a force of energy. And that's what we feel from one of the greatest actors of all time. And so, yeah, you got to put in the work. You got to do the practice so that you can show up and be in the zone and be in flow and not overthink and be in your head. I asked this question to my mentors once. One of my mentors was very wise, very spiritual. I said to him, I said, why did I go through 17 years of poverty? Literally, I remember one time asking Meredith, what's your biggest fear? And she said that we'll come home one day and the locks will be changed because we haven't paid our rent in 6 months. I'm like, wow. And so he said to me, he said, you're so blessed that the way the Creator designed your life, some people get successful, then they seek out spirituality, and they don't have the tools to handle the fame, the wealth, this energy that's rushing in. It just shatters their vessel. And the Creator blessed you by giving you the first 3/4 of your life to be very difficult, to not have money, to live vicariously through the lives of other people and learn lessons through their life. So many lessons I learned about marriage, about relationships, about building a business. And now that energy does start coming in, you won't take it as seriously. Because the secret to everything in life is when something comes in, if it controls you, you're going to end up losing it. If you depend on something, you must lose it. Anything you depend on in life will eventually leave you in order to teach you how to become your own creator. I remember Joe Dispenza said this in your last summit. And I had a similar example. I was in the Hamptons once, talking to this very wealthy man. I was in his Hamptons home, beautiful, beautiful home. He was a young guy, probably in his early 30s. And I said to him, I said, wow, you have a beautiful home. I said, he's an executive and founder of one of the biggest companies in the world. It was his first company. I said to him, what would happen if you lost all this? Like you have a wife, you have kids, you have a lot going on. I remember he had like a can of soda, he opened it up, and he took a sip, he's like, if I lost all of it, well, I guess I would just make it all back. And he was so casual about it, he was so nonchalant about it. I realized to him, none of it controlled him. And because it didn't control him, he was a channel of it. Anything that we take too personally or so seriously, or we're
we're afraid if we have it or afraid if we don't, and we're thinking about it,
it means it's part of our soul's correction. And so we will always have a difficult relationship with it. It will not flow. Once you have certainty that you'll be wealthy no matter what, or you'll be certainty you're loved no matter what, or you are wealth, or you are loved. Once you're certain about it, then the universe just gives it to you endlessly.